Todo estará bien, mi amor, she says while my knee bleeds and she holds me cradled up in her chest. The fabric of her clothes is soft, and she always smells like flowers somehow. The Alabama sun is beating down on us. I can't remember what month it was, but it had to be summer. My forehead is sweaty, and my cheeks are red and covered in tears. As a 5-year-old, a fall from a swing seems like the end of the world. 1 second you're giggling and seeing how high you can go, and the next you're on the ground screaming from the pain. I can feel every grain of dirt under my nails and more blood dripping from my knee. It is not that serious, but I'm small, and I just want to feel better. And in my mother's arms, I always feel better. My mom continues to hold me without caring that her beautiful bright yellow blouse is getting stained with blood. I hold on to her, and she squeezes me to emphasize that she is there. She repeats once again, "Estás a salvo, mi niña." I start calming down, still buried in her chest while I do the typical little kid rapid fire inhaling and exhaling. No more tears come out, and my mom smiles. She tickles me, and I laugh louder than I cried. We have done this 1,000 times before, and every time, I know that I am safe because she is with me. I'm in the elevator with a man I don't know and an arrangement of flowers so big that it barely fit in the tiny space. I used to love the smell of flowers because they smelled like her, but I can't look at them right now, even though I'm forced to. The man looks at me, slightly squints, and asks, "Was it a close relative?" For a moment, I almost want to lash out at him. Why would he ask me that? Can't he see my red eyes, my lip quivering, my black shirt? But he doesn't know. He just works here, and he does not feel the obligation to learn everyone's story, and that's fine. I take a deep breath, and the man does not look more interested. With the entire weight of my body, an almost whisper comes out of me. "She was my mom," I reply, and his eyes do something strange. It's a look of pity, the one I know I'll see 100 times. It's the urge to take back the question. I don't know why, but I give him a faint smile, the only thing I can muster. We both are quiet now. No more questions, no more looks filled with pity, just utter silence. The sensation of being in the elevator goes on for way too long. I'm only going to the 2nd floor of the funeral home, but it feels like I've been stuck here for ages. It finally stops, and as the doors slide open, I instantly forget about the man and his pity. All I can see is a room so bright that it blinds me. It might be the puffiness in my eyes, or truly the lights here are designed to make you suffer more. Once I adjust to the brightness, I can start making out the people inside the room. I have no memory of walking, but somehow I enter and my mind goes quiet once more, even though my heart thumps loud enough to give me a headache. I just turned 17 2 weeks ago. I hated this particular birthday because I had to celebrate it in a hospital with my mom barely able to get up. She smiled, but her skin was so pale, her body had gotten extremely thin, and her voice was weak. She hugged me either way, and once again, with everything against us, I felt safe. The stress, the nights I cried for her health, the feeling of dreading something I didn't want to happen, everything went away in her arms. It didn't matter how old I was, what I did, if I messed up or achieved something. She saw me for me and she never let me go, despite the countless times I lost myself. Entering the room in the funeral home felt like everything that was against us had won. I wasn't just entering this gray and dull space, I was entering the rest of my life. When my mom and dad separated, I was asked too many times who I chose to stay with. The answer was always the same. My mom had protected me from the imaginary monsters under my bed, from the yelling of my dad, from the classmates that bullied me. She had protected me from my own thoughts. Even though she raised me to always value my internal and external beauty, I got caught up in the voices from the outside. I cared too much about what others had, what they could, and what I couldn't. I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety in middle school. It was sudden and scary, like falling from a swing. I would constantly ask the mirror if there was something wrong with me, because how could I be so young and so unhappy? Although I felt like my mind would never shut up, my mom spoke louder. To every therapy session I went to, she was outside waiting for me. She replaced my cruel and self-destructive thoughts with her kind and loving words. Standing in the room where everyone came to say goodbye to her felt like her voice was already fading. Friends, family, people I didn't know, they all turned to look at me at the entrance. I felt like I would faint. I was a very shy girl, and facing the world with my emotions on full blast used to be my worst nightmare, until I turned and saw the coffin at the top center of the room. My heart was pounding so hard that my chest felt on the verge of splitting in half. I inhaled one time and then another, remembering what she taught me to control my anxiety. Not right now, I thought to myself. The bliss of ignorance snaked my body until it held me completely, and I looked the other way, finding faces that got closer and closer to me. Each person that approached me had either a hug, words, or a smile to offer me. My tios and tias did their best to hide their own suffering for my sake. Everyone knew that from her 3 daughters, I was the most emotional. They knew how special our bond is, and because she never hid it, they knew how much she loved me. One of the last days I visited her at the hospital, I said something that made her laugh. We talked about so many things, and I could feel that she was ready to leave. In my panic, I got closer to her and made her laugh again with a stupid joke. She held my hands and whispered, "Mi niña, tú eres mi favorita." For every kid, being their parents' favorite is like a prize, a medal of honor. For me, it was a goodbye. I knew she didn't love my sisters any less. She had a heart with space for everyone she cared about. This was her way of thanking me one last time for standing by her side, for listening to her when she worried, for calling her every time I was drunk and thought that I wasn't good enough, for trusting her, for caring for her, for loving her. She was thanking me. As more and more people came up to give me some sort of condolence, I felt the urge to run out of the room. I couldn't breathe or think. I couldn't recognize the voices of my friends. I wanted to wake up from this. I couldn't understand how this was happening and why it was happening to me, to us. My mind and my heart could not wrap themselves around the fact that I would be forced to live in a world that didn't have her hugs, her support, and her love. The room felt brighter and noisier. It seemed smaller and less colored. All the flowers in the arrangements that were grouped at the center looked like they were wilting. My friends held my hand. My dad hugged me. My grandmother cried so much she had to go to the hospital. Every person in this room, no matter how close or distant they were, had been impacted by her. They remembered her stories, her jokes, the way she found light in the darkest corners. After too many hours of sitting with everyone, I decided that it was time. I had to look at her, just to make sure, just to be 100% sure that this was not my imagination giving me the worst form of torture. I got up with my wobbly knees, and I walked towards the wooden box that held my best friend. The walk must have been a few seconds, but it felt like an eternity. When I reached the coffin, the world stopped. I could see her laying in there. "She's sleeping," I said to myself. Her hair looks soft, and she's wearing a red blouse that she loved. "She's sleeping." I repeat it like a mantra until my brain believes it, until I think I see her breathing. As a little 10-year-old girl, when I thought of death, I thought of nightmares and darkness. I thought that it was the worst thing that could happen to someone. My mom, in an attempt to ease my anxiety, would often say that those who got ahead of us were actually happy, and that parties in the other world were never uncommon. She spoke of death the way anyone else would speak of a beautiful adventure. When the uncertainty of what's next would overwhelm my little brain, she would undo the knots in my hair and tell me stories about our deceased relatives and how she imagined that they were looking over us now while they drank and listened to the songs we liked. On a particularly bright morning, we sat in the grass of our front yard, and she told me that some past relatives can come visit us as animals. There was a slight breeze, tiny flowers surrounding us, and the smell of dirt. We spent the time spotting little critters that accompanied us in our conversation. She told me to pick an animal, any animal, so that my loved ones could take its form and visit me. I was so excited because suddenly death didn't seem so scary anymore. It just seemed like a different version of life. After thinking about it for all of 2 seconds, I yelled, "A butterfly," pointing to the sky in triumph. She laughed and celebrated with me. "Una mariposa para mi linda flor," she said. Maybe it wasn't the most amazing choice, but my excitement was enough for both of us. We tried to spot my new life companion in the yard, and every time we did, the fear of the unknown left me a little more. Suddenly, my biggest fears were not so scary anymore. Seeing her lay still in that wooden box made all those fears rush through my body until the air was too dense. My hair was knotted, and my hands were trembling so much that it felt like I would faint. I didn't touch the box, not even to see if I could reach her. I convinced myself that that was not her, that she was somewhere else listening to her favorite songs. I held on to the idea of her being safe and sound, surrounded by those she talked so lovingly about. The rest of the night was the same. Empty, filled with tears, silent, noisy. I was on a loop that never seemed to end. Her funeral felt like it lasted more days than I could count. And maybe it did, but it didn't last forever. I turned 23 a few months ago, and I can say, with my whole heart, that she never left me. I sometimes have the urge to look for her contact in my phone and call. And I won't lie, when I slip back into reality, it hits me like a bucket of cold water. The first year after her passing, I thought I wasn't going to make it. But more years went by, and I experienced excitement and healing and heartbreak and joy. I experienced myself. When I look at the sky, in hopes that she can see me, she lets me know she can. She sends me a butterfly, or a new friend, or the bloom of a flower, or a new hobby. She gives me her strength and her wisdom, her love and her ability to dream big. Sometimes I giggle, and others I cry and scream with pain. Sometimes I still feel small, and like I need to feel better. But in her arms, I always feel better. And when that butterfly flies around me and sets off to its next destination, I know that I am safe because she is with me.